Welcome to a brand new episode of the Jampack Report today for October the 1st of 2020. Of course, my name is Samuel Adams and this is a daily gaming news podcast meant to bring you the hottest news you need to know from around the industry. Hosted on YouTube and podcast services around the world 5 days a week, it is your one-stop shop for everything you need to know. So, if you enjoy the show and you like what you see, hit that subscribe button and keep coming back for more. But yesterday we got some very big news that the Spider-Man Remaster that is coming out alongside Spider-Man Miles Morales to PlayStation 5 this year is getting more than just a new coat of paint. You're getting a new Peter Parker. On Wednesday, Sony announced new details on Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered, an update of Marvel's Spider-Man for Sony's next generation console, the PlayStation 5. The game will feature a few expected upgrades like better graphics, a higher frame rate, and a few new Spider-Man suits. It will also feature some unexpected changes like a brand new face for Peter Parker. According to a new post on Sony's PlayStation blog, Peter Parker's facial model has been changed in the remastered version of the game from John Bobniak's face to Ben Jordan's. The blog post explains that in order to bring out the best possible visuals for the remastered version of the game, the development team needed a better match for the facial capture done by Yuri Lowenthal. Possibly by coincidence, this new Peter Parker also happens to look a bit more like MCU's Peter, Tom Holland, than the previous actor did. Insomniac community director James Stevenson goes into a few details about the game's new next-gen visuals. The upgrades to the remastered version of the game will include ray tracing for reflections and shadows, along with a new performance mode that will boost the game to 60 frames per second. The remastered game will also come with a few new suits, including one based on Andrew Garfield's from the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered will be available on PlayStation 5 on November the 12th. Unfortunately, players who already own Marvel's Spider-Man on PlayStation 4 will not be able to upgrade to the next version for free. However, the Ultimate Edition of Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales will also include a code for the remastered version of the original game and will retail for $69.99, or in other words, the next full price for next-gen games. Now, from an update, Insomniac creative director Brian Inthiar, I believe I said that correctly, tweeted a statement about the recasting to provide fans with a few more details about the studio's decision. Quote, "Today's news about the new Peter Parker face model has surprised some of you, and we at Insomniac totally understand your reaction. Heck, it even took me a while to get used to Peter's new look. But as we discussed the franchise's future and moving to the PlayStation 5, it quickly became apparent that delivering even more believable-looking characters made finding a better facial match for actor Yuri Lowenthal, who we all love as Peter, a necessity. We care as much about this character as your attachment to him, so please know we didn't make this decision or change lightly. As we did throughout the development of Marvel's Spider-Man, we'll continue to read your comments, listen, and always be looking for ways to improve every facet of the game. At the same time, I hope you can trust us that this decision is what we feel is best for the future of the franchise and our upcoming goals for this beloved Marvel character." Now personally, and again this is just my take, I like this facial design a lot better than what we had in the original. In my opinion, the original just didn't quite look like a Peter Parker. Now of course my screen is cropped. If you're watching on YouTube, you can go on Twitter and find tons of comparisons, so we'll leave it at this size. But I feel like if you are shooting for a 23-year-old character, this model looks much more realistic and much more like what I would imagine a 23-year-old looks like. I know because I am one, and this kind of looks like me in a roundabout way. Now, with that being said, I also understand the frustrations from the community because this is Peter Parker in Insomniac's Spider-Man game. I know who this is. But going forward, if you look into the future, you have to understand that, of course, Miles Morales is going to be coming out this year. Inevitably, you are going to be getting a Spider-Man 2, which is a continuation of the original game. You could even see one that is a prequel. Who knows what they could come out with? But the fact of the matter is, Spider-Man is one of the best-selling games on the PlayStation 4 and really one of the biggest games of the last 10 years. So to think that that franchise is just going away or that Insomniac just did a one-off, that's not the case. So they need to figure out who their Spider-Man needs to be. And if you don't want it to be this guy, then you better lock it down and get it on this guy. Now, outside of the discussions around the character models, there was some gameplay that was released, including a video of the performance mode, which is 4K, 60 FPS. It looks wonderful. I mean, truly, I wasn't fully on board with a remaster of the original Spider-Man because it only came out 2 years ago. How much better could it possibly be? Let me tell you, it gets a lot better. I'm really looking forward to seeing this one in action. But if you do want to dive into the remastered version of 2018 Spider-Man, again, you do have to essentially buy Spider-Man Miles Morales, the Ultimate Edition, for $69.99, and you get access to that. But, of course, if you do buy Miles Morales on the PlayStation 4, your save carries over, so the upgrades could be there in the future, but ultimately, really convoluted situation when it comes to how you get your hands on this game. At the same time, though, man, it does look good. It does look good. I'm looking forward to seeing the big superhero fights with the ray tracing and reflections and stuff. That's going to be quite wonderful. Now, continuing on to a company that is not doing quite as well as PlayStation, Google's latest $50 Chromecast with Google TV dongle is launching without access to the company's game streaming service, Stadia. The new dongle, which was revealed at Google Late Night In event last night, won't have Stadia functionality at launch, with Google estimating Stadia becoming available on the device in 2021. No specific date was given, but the company suggests a Stadia app may arrive on the device within around the first 6 months of the year. Quote, Chromecast with Google TV will be supported on Stadia in the first half of 2021, reads a tweet from the Stadia account. We'd suggest keeping an eye on our social channels and community for updates. Reporters at The Verge have managed to get Stadia running on the device via sideloading, though, so if you're desperate to stream games to your TV via the device, you have options. In the meantime, though, you are probably better off sticking with the Chromecast Ultra if you want the easiest access to Stadia. It is worth noting, if you don't already own a Chromecast Ultra, Google no longer sells them individually, but they are still available as part of the Stadia Premier Kit Edition, which you can grab for $100. I don't understand this, because if you want Stadia to be a legitimate competitor to not only PlayStation, Nintendo, and Xbox, but if you want to be a competitor to Amazon's Luna, just make sure that the device you are putting out is compatible with the service you're controlling. There isn't a third party here. I would understand if Nvidia launched a new Shield TV and they said that Chromecast support wouldn't come until the first half of 2021. That makes sense, because there are logistics, there is design, there is development, because you're working with another company. This is a Chromecast coming from the Google team. What? I don't understand it. Of course, now there is a deeper dive into the difficulties behind this new version of Chromecast, because the other one was essentially just a streaming box where everything was being controlled through the controller itself or through the phone itself, whereas this box actually has Android TV as its foundation. So it's a different kind of device, and I understand that there are probably some development issues with that as compared to the original Chromecast or the Chromecast Ultra. But the fact of the matter is, you're still the same company. You have both of the teams in the same house. Do you understand what I'm saying here? You should be able to make this work, and if it doesn't work, then push it out. Man, what a mess that one is. So as if things could not get worse for Stadia, it seems they absolutely can. But moving on, let's talk about a game that's coming out for next-gen consoles, or I should say console. It's coming to the PlayStation 5, but Housemarque's Returnal is a bullet hell third-person roguelike. New images and info have emerged for PlayStation 5's sci-fi horror title. Housemarque has offered up more details on its unnerving sci-fi adventure Returnal, which made its debut back in June as part of the PlayStation 5 Future of Gaming presentation. The Resogun developer has stated that Returnal is a third-person roguelike adventure with recurring gameplay specifically designed for extreme replayability. This game loop is born through Returnal's narrative, which will see intergalactic explorer Celine crash land on a strange, physics-defying planet where every death only finds her reliving her hazardous and intriguing adventure over and over again. This revelation may come as a bit of a surprise to those who might have assumed that Returnal would be a straight third-person adventure, perhaps in the vein of something such as a Dead Space. However, it would seem that Returnal will in fact have more in common with a title such as Rogue Legacy than it would Electronic Arts' Interstellar horror series, at least in regards to its recurring gameplay loop. Showing that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, Housemarque also declared that Returnal will feature bullet hell-infused combat. I guess old habits die hard. With Celine battling her way through an ever-changing environment populated by an army of ghastly alien creatures, driven by a desperate desire to find a way out of this endless nightmare and return home with both her life and her sanity. Now, when Resogun came out, it was one of the reasons for someone to have a PlayStation 4 because it was essentially one of the first free PlayStation Plus games that was offered on the platform. Now, it is not a God of War, it is not a Last of Us, it is not a Ghost of Tsushima, it's not one of these big, AAA giant games, but it was a very, very fun indie, and Housemarque is really one of the best companies that makes that vision a reality. They try and they kill it every time. I've never played a bad Housemarque game. Returnal is something they've never done before. They've never done a third-person shooter. Traditionally, they do these kind of bullet hell side-scrollers or puzzles in a way. But it sounds like Returnal retains that core fundamental drive that Housemarque has and then applies that to this. Essentially what is a Dead Space game in a lot of different ways. Of course, it is not a Dead Space game, but it's going to be very fast-paced. I imagine this is going to be a lot like if you combined the idea behind the Alien movies with Dead Space and then Resogun. It's just a very unique game. And I'll tell you right now, I think that out of every game that is coming to the PlayStation 5 currently announced, within the first few months of its release, obviously, I think this might be my favorite looking one. I'm looking forward to Returnal in a very big way. There's something about this game that feels like it is going to capture the power of next gen while also not being gimmicky. This is what you get from a company that has access to powerful hardware and a vision. I like that. Okay, so if you do want to pick up Returnal, it is going to be coming out on the PlayStation 5. Really hoping for a PC release because I'm trying to hold off on picking up that title or that console just because, money. But at the same time, man, looking good so far. Now, to round out today's show, we do have the PlayStation Plus games for October. Vampyr and Need for Speed Payback are hitting PlayStation Plus this month. For the month of October, starting on October the 6th and ending on November the 2nd, PlayStation Plus subscribers can pick up Vampyr and Need for Speed Payback absolutely free. Vampyr first arrived from French developer Don't Nod Entertainment back in June of 2018. A uniquely narrative-driven RPG, you take on the role of Jonathan E. Reed, a doctor with the ironic condition of vampirism. He thirsts for blood, but his profession tasks him with doing no harm. Pretty tricky to balance the two, and how you decide to do it as a player probably says a lot about you. The benefits of feeding on the blood of the innocent are unlocking new and fantastic vampiric powers such as invisibility, blood spears, and boiling the blood of your enemies. On the downside, sucking blood out in the open will blow your cover and cause vampire hunters to come knocking at your door. It is possible to finish Vampyr without ever killing anyone, and this unlocks one of the game's 4 separate endings. To do that, you will need to lean heavily on Vampyr's weapon crafting system that lets you upgrade arms and armaments like swords and revolvers. Vampyr received excellent reviews and sold over 1 million copies less than 1 year after its release. It even got ported to the Nintendo Switch with some success. Need for Speed Payback was not quite as notable as Vampyr, but it is at least still a pretty good racing game for those that are into fast and expensive cars. Payback puts players in the middle of Fortune Valley, a desert city that looks suspiciously like Las Vegas, complete with a casino-based economy. You take part in an underground racing ring run by a cartel known as the House, where you eventually get arrested and have to seek revenge on people that betrayed you. There's a lot of intrigue, racing, and 74 vehicles to choose from. They'll all be a bit dated as the game originally came out in 2017, but they are still plenty fast. PlayStation Plus members can download Vampyr and Need for Speed Payback starting on October the 6th. So if you do want to dive into any of these games, they are freebies for the month. You can add them to the cart, check out. You don't have to install them. Just have them in your library. You never know when you'll want to go back and play them. However, that rounds out today's episode of the Jampack Report. If you enjoyed today's show, drop me a like down below and let me know what stories caught your eye, but specifically, how do you feel about the new Peter Parker? Would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. But until tomorrow, you guys have a fantastic first day of the month. I'll talk to you soon, and peace.